Tonight's story contains supernatural themes and unsettling moments. No gore. If you're alone, keep a light nearby. The mark faded. That doesn't mean it disappeared. They crossed state lines. They left the grave behind. They left the church. But some things don't believe in distance. 5 teenagers. One unmarked grave in New York City. A twisted compass symbol scratched into soil and skin. They survived the cemetery. They sealed the pledge tag. Theo scrubbed the mark from his palm, or thought he did, because whatever answered in that clearing does not believe in goodbyes. It believes in continuation. And tonight, Sarah James screamed like the house had slapped her. Not a polite squeak. A full-body alarm that made everyone's spine remember it could run. "The mirror?" She choked, stumbling backward into the hallway. "The mirror is wrong." Theo Sanchez had 2 duffel bags in each hand and froze mid-step over the threshold. Tony Francis was already on the sofa, collapsed like a tired seal, and looked up. "Define wrong," Tony said. "Like ugly wallpaper wrong, or demon signed a lease wrong?" Sarah jabbed a shaking finger toward the bathroom. The bathroom mirror was small, ordinary, a rectangle of glass above a sink that had seen too many cheap renovations and not enough mercy. Theo stepped closer, careful like the floor might bite. Jessica Martinez stayed near the entrance, gripping holy water like it was the last bottle on earth. Alan Roosevelt hovered beside Theo, recorder out, red light blinking like he needed proof to breathe. Sarah swallowed. "Watch." She lifted her hand. Her reflection lifted its hand too. Then Sarah lowered her hand. Her reflection didn't. Not right away. It held the pose for half a heartbeat longer, like it had to decide whether to copy her. Tony leaned around the doorframe. "Maybe the mirror has bad Wi-Fi." Sarah shot him a look sharp enough to cut duct tape. Theo stared at the glass and felt that familiar pressure behind his eyes, the third eye headache that flared whenever something nearby had rules. His abuela called it a gift. Theo called it a migraine with opinions. His palm itched, the same palm that had carried the twisted compass mark in New York. Scrubbed raw at the church near the state line. Nearly. Clean. Nearly. The reflection blinked. Theo didn't. The reflection smiled. Theo didn't. It wasn't Sarah smiling. It was a copy of one. A mouth stretching into the idea of friendliness. Jessica's gift fired like an alarm bell in her chest. Her voice came out sharp. "Don't look at it." Theo took a step back. Everyone out of the bathroom. Tony opened his mouth like he had a plan. Theo's look. Shut it. They retreated into the hallway, breathing too loud. Theo's rosary hung under his shirt, the St. Benedict medal cool against his skin. His palm still carried the memory of the twisted compass mark from the church near the state line. "We don't need guesses," Theo said. "We need rules." Jessica nodded once. Rule 1. Cover every mirror. Sarah was already pulling duct tape from her bag. Rule 2. Salt thresholds. Bathroom door first. Tony lifted his salt sprayer like a knight presenting a weapon he built in a garage. Rule 3. No one says mirror, mirror, because I refuse to die in a fairy tale. Rule 4, Theo said, looking each of them in the eye. We don't answer anything that sounds like us. Not out loud. Not in our heads. The house creaked. Not a settling creak. A long, slow sound, like wood stretching after a nap. Tony whispered. That was the house listening. Jessica's jaw tightened. then will speak louder than it does. The rental house sat in a quiet New Jersey neighborhood with polite lawns and neighbors who watered plants like watering plants could keep the world clean. It was listed online as charming vintage touches, which was code for someone had died here and the landlord painted over it. Mirrors were everywhere. A round one above the fireplace, decorated with fake gold leaves. A tall standing mirror in the corner, draped in lace like it was pretending to be innocent. Small decorative mirrors in the hallway. A mirrored closet door. Upstairs. A mirror on the inside of the front door, which Theo hated immediately because mirrors on doors always felt like a trick. Tony did a slow spin. Who lived here? A vampire with self-esteem issues. Sarah didn't laugh. She taped towels and bedsheets over the hallway mirrors with the fury of someone sealing a tomb. Jessica took the blessed cloth Father Gabriel had prayed over back home. She crossed herself once, quick and steady, then pinned the cloth over the tall standing mirror. No corners, no glass. The air shifted, irritated, like a sleeping creature disturbed. From behind the cloth, a soft scratch, like nails testing fabric. Jessica didn't flinch. "In the name of Jesus," she whispered. The scratching stopped. Tony laid salt lines at the bathroom doorway and the front threshold. Alan kept his eyes low, like reflections were landmines. He tried recording a note and then deleted it, like the house might steal his voice from the file. When they were done, the place looked bandaged. And still, Theo could feel it watching, not loud, attentive, like something behind the walls was leaning closer every time they spoke. Sarah pressed her palm to the wallpaper and frowned. "It feels busy, like the wall has a pulse." Theo kept his voice calm. "Mirrors are mouths. If this thing is learning faces, the mirrors are how it does it." Alan swallowed. "So it's like facial recognition, but spiritual." Tony's eyebrows lifted. "Great." The haunted house has surveillance. Jessica's gift pulsed again. A warning. She stared at the covered fireplace mirror. "It wants us to look." Theo nodded. "Then we don't." Sarah took control before fear could. "We do a sweep, top to bottom, find the anchor." They climbed the stairs. Every covered mirror looked like a blindfolded face. The attic hatch was in the hallway ceiling. Tony reached for the pull cord. Theo caught his wrist. "Attics are always where the bad stuff is," Sarah whispered. "He's not wrong." Jessica crossed herself again. Alan swallowed. Theo nodded. "Open it." Tony yanked. The hatch dropped with a thump, and cold air rolled out smelling like old wood and pennies. Sarah winced. Pressure. Worse up there. Alan's recorder crackled without him touching it. Theo climbed first. The attic was cramped. Boxes stacked like forgotten secrets. His flashlight beam swept across sheet-covered furniture. Then the far corner. A huge antique mirror, taller than Theo, framed in dark carved wood. The glass was slightly warped, like it remembered older faces. It was uncovered. It was staring. Theo's breath caught. Jessica climbed up and froze. "No." Tony's head popped up behind them. "Oh, come on. That is objectively rude." In the mirror, 5 reflections stood. Theo, Sarah, Jessica, Tony, Alan. Except something was wrong. Sarah's reflection moved a half beat late. Tony's reflection didn't breathe. Alan's reflection watched Theo, not itself. And Jessica's reflection raised her holy water bottle. But the bottle in the mirror was empty. The glass fogged from the inside. A handprint pressed against it. From behind the mirror, then a whisper. Soft as a friend in a dark room. Hello. It sounded like Sarah. Sarah went pale. Theo's throat went dry. Don't answer. The voice continued. Gentler. I can help you. Tony whispered, I hate that it has customer service. Jessica stepped forward with the blessed cloth. Her voice was steady. Lord, cover us. She pressed the cloth toward the glass. The mirror laughed, not loud. A small, polite laugh, and it came out in Theo's voice. Theo froze. Hearing your own voice from the wrong place is like stepping on air and expecting ground. In the glass, Theo's reflection mouthed one word. Invite. Sarah's breath hitched. Alan's recorder spiked into a jagged waveform that looked like the twisted compass symbol. That's a rule, Theo said, forcing his voice calm. It can't cross without permission. Jessica slapped the blessed cloth over the mirror, taping it down hard. The voice cut off mid-sentence. Theo drew a thick salt line across the attic floor between them and the covered mirror. Down, he ordered. Now. They scrambled down the ladder. Theo slammed the hatch shut like a coffin lid. Sarah taped it with shaking hands. When they reached the living room, Sarah's bedsheet lay crumpled on the floor. The fireplace mirror was uncovered again, clean, gleaming, and in it, their reflections stood perfectly still, watching. Tony whispered, So it has hands. Jessica flicked holy water at the glass. Droplets slid down. The air hissed faintly, like something recoiling without wanting to show it. Theo's third eye tightened. Mirrors weren't the monster. They were mouths. Surfaces where something behind reality could press closer. Sarah spoke fast. We need the story behind this house. Tonight, we don't sleep like normal people. We set watch shifts. Tony blinked. You're asking me to stay awake in a mirror house. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Yes. Tony sighed. Copy that. I'll die tired. They tried to make the first night normal. It was a bad joke. Sarah cooked noodles in the kitchen because eating helps the brain remember it has a body. Tony set out snacks, like offerings to the altar of survival. Alan sat on the floor by the couch with his recorder, staring at the red light like it might betray him. Jessica wrote a list of rules on a piece of paper and taped it to the fridge. No looking in mirrors. No answering voices. No saying full names in this house. Stay in pairs. Pray if you feel pressure. Theo stared at the list and swallowed. Good. Tony chewed a noodle and said, Mouthful. You forgot Rule 6. Don't rent charming vintage touches. At 10:17 at night, the bathroom faucet turned on by itself. Not a drip. A full stream. Sarah froze. No one moved. Tony raised his hands. Wasn't me. Wasn't me. Jessica grabbed holy water. Theo's third eye pulsed as if someone had pressed a finger behind it. The air thickened. That invisible syrup feeling. Theo nodded toward the bathroom. We don't go in. We shut it off from the outside. Sarah grabbed a long wooden spoon from the kitchen and handed it to Theo. Use this. Don't cross the salt. Theo moved toward the bathroom door. Tony's salt line was still intact at the threshold. Pale grains like a fragile boundary between them, and a mouth. Theo leaned just close enough to reach the faucet handle with the spoon. He turned it. The water stopped. The mirror inside the bathroom fogged instantly, like it had exhaled. A whisper slid out under the door. Soft as breath. Theo. It wasn't Sarah. It wasn't Jessica. It was Theo's mother. Theo's stomach flipped. His mouth opened. The word almost came out. Just Mom. A reflex, not a decision. His lips shaped the M, and his throat tightened, with a sound that wanted to be an answer. The bathroom door seemed to lean toward him, like a mouth waiting for food. Jessica's hand clamped over his forearm, hard. Her nails dug into his sleeve. Her eyes burned into his with a certainty that had nothing to do with bravery and everything to do with knowing what a lie sounds like when it wears someone you love. Don't, she said, not angry, certain. That is not her. It is wearing her voice like a coat it stole. Theo's jaw clenched. He swallowed the word like swallowing glass. The M died on his tongue, and the silence after it felt like dropping something heavy from a height. Behind the door, the voice shifted, disappointed, like a fisherman reeling in an empty line. Then it tried again. Softer, sadder. Me, Joe. Theo's eyes burned. His hands shook. Jessica held tighter. Then silence. Theo exhaled, shaking. That was close. Jessica didn't let go of his arm for another 5 seconds. Yeah, it was. Tony's face was gray. If it knows his mom's voice that well, what else does it know? Nobody answered. Behind them, the standing mirror under the blessed cloth made a soft, slow tapping sound, like a fingernail on glass. Tap, tap, tap. Tony whispered. It heard that. It knows one of us almost answered. Sarah's voice was tight, or it's logging. Who's weakest? Alan's recorder crackled. When he looked down, the waveform had spiked into a pattern that looked like the twisted compass. Alan swallowed. It's leaving marks in the audio. Theo's mouth went dry. Turn it off. Alan did, hands shaking. The tapping stopped. Then, from somewhere upstairs, a heavy thunk. Like a box being dragged. Theo's third eye pulsed hard. Sarah whispered, "Attic." Tony whispered back, respectfully, "No." Theo didn't move. He spoke quietly, controlled. "We stay downstairs. We do not chase noises." Jessica nodded. It wants us split. It wants someone alone with a mirror. At 12:13 in the morning, the house went quiet. Not the normal quiet of late night. A thick quiet, like someone had stuffed cotton into the air. Theo's ears popped. Pressure built in his skull. Sarah's hands tightened around her phone. "I hate this quiet." Jessica closed her eyes and whispered a prayer in Spanish. The words steady like rope. Alan, without meaning to, glanced at his phone screen. The black glass reflected his face. For a heartbeat, his reflection didn't copy him. It looked past him. Alan's breath hitched. Theo noticed and snapped, "Alan." Alan tore his eyes away, shaking. My phone, my screen. Theo swallowed. New rule. Phone screens face down. No dark screens. No selfies. No front camera. Tony's voice was thin. So it's not just mirrors. It's every surface that can show a face. Theo looked at him. Tony wasn't joking. His eyes were wide, and his hands gripped his knees. "Yeah," Theo said. "I think so." The cotton-thick quiet pressed harder. Sarah's ears popped twice. Then, from upstairs, voices. Sarah's voice. Clear, calm. "Guys, I'm up here. Come help." Sarah's face went white. That's not me. The voice came again, shifting. Theo's mother. Gentle, aching. Please. Theo. Come. Then Tony's voice. Whining, scared. Guys, I'm stuck in the mirror. Help. Tony went rigid. Okay, that's not funny, and it's not me, and I want to leave. Then Jessica's voice, trembling. I'm scared. Jessica's face hardened into fury. That is not my voice, and it has no right to use it. Then Alan's voice, thin and shaking. I saw it. It's in the attic. It's writing. Alan looked like he might throw up. That's my exact fear. The voice laughed, softly. A real laugh this time. Not copied. And it came from everywhere. The cotton-thick quiet released. And the house returned to normal. Sounds like it had finished a test. Theo exhaled, shakily. It's practicing, Sarah whispered, learning. At 2:41 in the morning, during Tony's watch shift, Alan jerked awake on the couch. His eyes were open but vacant. Like someone staring at a screen nobody else could see. Tony leaned over. Alan, you good? Alan's mouth moved. Barely. His voice came out dry as paper. A bridge. He whispered. Wooden. Covered. Fog everywhere. I can hear it humming, like the wood is singing through its teeth. Tony's skin prickled. Dreaming. Alan's hand gripped the couch cushion. The compass mark is carved into the beams. Fresh. And something is underneath the bridge, in the water counting. His eyes snapped into focus. He gasped and sat up. Drenched in sweat, Tony stared at him. Where was that? Alan's voice shook. I don't know. But it's next? Tony swallowed. Great. Love a sequel. He didn't say anything else. For once. Tony didn't have a joke. He just handed Alan a bottle of water and watched the covered mirrors in the dark, like they might breathe. They made it to dawn without anyone turning a mirror into an invitation. But none of them slept. When sunlight finally crawled into the living room through blinds, it didn't feel like safety. It felt like a timeout. Sarah drove them to the library because Sarah believed in two things with religious intensity: maps and public records. In the archives, they found him, Eugene Braddock, arrested years ago for stealing items from funeral homes. Rosaries, medals, prayer cards. He sold them online as vintage spiritual collectibles. Jessica's face hardened. You don't steal what people use to survive. Braddock served a short sentence. Then he died in his own house. Accidental fall down basement stairs, Sarah read. Tony muttered. Or the mirror pushed him. Alan's voice was quiet. Or someone did. Someone who wanted his house. Sarah scrolled through forum posts about the rental. The same stories repeated. Reflections lagging. Bathroom mirrors fogging from the inside. Loved ones calling by name. Then the photo that made Theo's stomach drop. A twisted compass scratched into the front window. Same symbol from New York. Same symbol from the unmarked gravesite. Theo's palm flared with sudden heat. He closed his fist under the table. Nobody saw. They printed what they could. As they stood to leave, the librarian, a woman with gray streaks in her hair and eyes that had seen too much, watched them over her glasses. You kids looking up Braddock? She asked. Theo hesitated. We're staying at the house? The woman's face tightened. The mirror house. Sarah's mouth went dry. You know it? The librarian's gaze flicked to Theo's medal, then to Jessica's holy water bottle, and her expression shifted from suspicion to something like recognition. My nephew rented it for a weekend, she said quietly. He came home shaking. He said his reflection smiled first. Tony swallowed. That's our issue. The librarian leaned closer. If you hear a voice you love, don't answer. If you see something that looks like you, don't trust it. And if you see a big black dog near the porch. Alan's eyes widened. A black dog? She nodded. Some people call it a bad omen. I think it's a warning. The dog shows up when the house is hungry. Theo's throat tightened. Thank you. The librarian's face softened slightly. Just don't be the next story in my archives. They left. Back at the house, Theo noticed the front window had a fresh scratch. Twisted compass. Branding. Inside, the air was colder. The fireplace mirror above the mantel was draped in a new cloth they hadn't put there. Dark. Neat. Like a funeral veil. It's performing, Theo said. They had one more place to check before they dealt with the attic. Basement. Because accidental fall-down basement stairs felt like a clue, not just a detail. The basement door was off the kitchen. Tony hovered behind Theo. We do not like basements. Sarah had a flashlight in each hand, like she planned to duel the dark. Jessica held holy water. Alan held the recorder, but kept his eyes on the floor. Theo opened the basement door. Cold air rose up like breath. The steps down were narrow, wood worn smooth in the center. Like many feet had gone down quickly and come back up quicker. Theo's third eye pulsed, warning. Pears, Theo whispered. Stay close. They went down. The basement was unfinished. Concrete floor, exposed beams, a humming water heater, boxes stacked near a workbench. And on the far wall, a strange collage, broken mirror shards, glued into a rough mosaic. Hundreds of little reflective pieces, like eyes. Theo's stomach turned. Tony moved closer, one hand gripping the workbench edge. The second his fingers touched the wood, his vision lurched. Daylight. Months ago. Maybe years. The same basement, but lit by a bare bulb and filled with the sound of breathing. Braddock, younger, sweatier, hands shaking, pressing mirror shards into glue on the wall. One by one, his lips moving. Faces. Braddock whispered. It needs faces. It needs faces. Behind Braddock, in the tall standing mirror propped against the corner, something watched. Still, patient, pleased. Then the flash ended. Night. Basement. Fear. Tony yanked his hand back, like the workbench had bitten him. His face was chalk white. He built this on purpose. Tony breathed. I saw him. Gluing shards. Whispering to it. He was feeding it. Jessica's gift flared so hard she hissed through her teeth. I know. I can feel it. The whole wall is covered in something, like a lie that thinks it's the truth. Theo nodded, slowly, or helping it learn. On the workbench sat an old camcorder and a stack of tapes, labeled in black marker. Funeral home. St. Mark's. Bridget's. Mirror. Test. Survey. Theo's blood went cold at the last word. Sarah stared. He filmed it. Tony whispered. We are not pressing play down here. Alan's fingers twitched. Evidence. Theo looked at Jessica. We take one tape, the survey one. We play it on consecrated ground. Sarah nodded quickly. One tape. Then we leave. Tony pulled on gloves with shaking hands. He picked up the tape labeled survey and slid it into a plastic bag like it was radioactive. As he did, the mirror shard wall shimmered, not from light, from movement. One tiny shard, near the center, showed Theo's face. The shard showed Theo's reflection, smiling. Theo wasn't smiling. Then the shard showed Theo's reflection, raising its hand, palm out. And on that palm, a twisted compass mark glowed faintly. Theo's real palm burned. Theo jerked his hand back, heart pounding. Up. Now. Behind them. The basement stairs creaked. Not from their steps. From above. Like someone had stepped onto the top stair. Sarah's breath caught. We're not alone. Theo's throat went dry. Move. They rushed up the stairs, bunching at the door. The basement light flickered. The mirror shard wall hissed softly, like a room full of mouths whispering at once. Theo slammed the basement door and threw the lock. Then he sprayed a thick salt line across the base of it. Tony gasped. Why is it always the basement? Sarah's hands shook because humans love putting secrets underground. Jessica's voice was steady, furious. We have what we need. Now we return the stolen items. Alan held the bagged tape tight against his chest. Theo nodded. Attic next. We take the rosaries, the notebook. Then we go to the church and we don't come back. The attic was worse. The tape on the hatch had been peeled back cleanly. The blessed cloth on the attic mirror was gone again. The mirror fogged from the inside and whispered in Jessica's voice, "Come closer. I'm scared." Jessica's eyes flashed with fury. That is not me. And you do not get to wear my voice. Tony pulled on gloves. They found stacked boxes in the corner. Inside, dozens of rosaries and medals, prayer cards, a small wooden crucifix worn smooth by someone else's fear. Theo felt sick. Someone had held these while saying goodbye. Someone had cried into these beads. Someone had prayed over these cards with a voice breaking, and Braddock had boxed them like collectibles. Alan found a cracked leather notebook at the bottom and opened it. Addresses, dates, notes across states, and beside many of them, the twisted compass symbol. Sarah's voice went thin. It's a route. Jessica's anger turned cold. Someone is building a network. Alan turned a page and found handwriting that wasn't Braddock's. Neater, precise, professional. Reflections provide facial acquisition. Do not allow subjects to notice. Survey protocol. Complete. Theo's blood turned to ice. Tony whispered, "Survey." Nobody said the full name out loud, but they all felt it in the room, like a sixth person standing just behind the glass. The mirror whispered in Theo's voice, "Those are mine." Jessica snapped the notebook shut. "No?" Theo nodded. "We take everything. Church. Now." They packed the stolen prayers into bags. As they moved, the mirror's fog thickened like angry breath. A fingernail sound on glass. A warning. They fled the attic, and Theo slammed the hatch shut. Sarah taped it with shaking hands. The house creaked, long and slow, and it sounded pleased. They moved fast through the house, grabbing bags and gear. In the hallway, Theo heard a whisper in his mother's voice. Theo, his body, tried to turn. He didn't. Jessica's hand found his shoulder. Don't. Theo grabbed his bag without looking back. Downstairs, Tony scooped snacks and gear like a man evacuating a sinking ship. Alan stared at a thin, wet trail across the floor. It led to the bathroom. Tony's salt line at the doorway was smeared. A gap. Theo's pulse spiked. The bathroom light flickered, then turned on. In the bathroom mirror, the doorway reflected them, and in that reflection, a tall silhouette stood behind them, holding something reflective. Theo's blood went cold. Tony whispered, "That's the Watcher." Jessica's gift flared hard. That is not a person. In the mirror, the silhouette lifted a hand and wrote on its reflective surface. Then it looked up. Its face was blank, smooth, featureless, a human face with nothing carved into it. The mirror fogged from the inside. A calm voice spoke. Professional, polite. "Thank you," it said. "Participation has been informative." Sarah's knees nearly buckled. Jessica stepped forward, voice strong. "In the name of Jesus Christ, you have no right." A soft laugh from the mirror. "Refusal is data too." Theo's stomach turned. The bathroom door slammed shut. The hallway mirrors trembled under their cloths, as if something behind them was pressing outward. Sarah grabbed her ears. Pressure. Alan's recorder clicked on by itself. The waveform spiked, but this time, instead of a shape, tiny fragments of text flickered across the screen. Broken. Corrupted. Like something was trying to write through static. Alan's breath caught. "It's cataloging us." Through the recorder, Tony whispered, "We're being graded." Theo snapped. "Tony salt." Tony jolted and sprayed a fresh, thick line in front of the bathroom door. Jessica flung holy water at the door handle and the wet trail. The wood hissed. Theo pressed his rosary into his palm and began the St. Michael prayer, voice firm, not theatrical, just true. The house shuddered. The fireplace mirror cracks brightened behind the cloth, like veins of cold light. Theo's third eye screamed. That mirror was the main mouth. It was opening. "Jess," Theo said, voice tight. "The living room mirror. That's the door." Sarah's voice shook. "We break it." Theo grabbed the fireplace poker. "Plan?" he said, forcing calm. "Sarah, keep the front door clear. Tony, salt thick around the mirror. Alan, record but eyes down. Jess, bless the poker. Blessed cloth stays over the glass. We break it through the cloth. No one looks." They moved like they'd rehearsed. Tony sprayed salt in a wide ring beneath the mirror and along the wall. The salt hissed as if the house disliked it. He sprayed more. The hissing got louder. Jessica pressed the blessed cloth over the cracked mirror and held it tight, both hands flat against the fabric, like she was holding shut a door that something enormous was pushing from the other side. Then she placed her free hand on the fireplace poker in Theo's grip and whispered, "Lord, let this close what should never have been opened." She moved the holy water bottle to the poker's tip, letting a thin stream run down the iron. Where the water touched, the metal seemed to catch light that wasn't in the room. Theo lifted it. He thought of Abuela's voice, tired and sharp. He thought of stolen rosaries, now safe in a bag on his shoulder. He thought of the man on the tape who thought he could buy protection from something that only knew how to take. He exhaled and swung. Crack. The house lurched, pressure shifting like a storm front. For half a second, the shattered pieces on the floor, visible past the cloth's edge, showed something that wasn't this room. A clearing, wet grass, an unmarked grave in New York, grass leaning inward like it was still waiting. Then the image was gone. Theo swung again. Crack. A cold wind burst from behind the cloth, smelling like wet stone and pennies. The hallway cloths fluttered like they wanted to be torn away. Jessica held firm, knuckles white, praying under her breath. Theo swung a third time. The mirror collapsed inward, shattering behind the cloth like a mouth biting its own tongue. The house exhaled, a long, heavy sigh from the walls. Sarah's ears popped hard as pressure released. Tony gasped. Alan's recorder screamed static and then went dead silent. The bathroom door clicked, unlocked. The hallway mirrors went still. The air warmed a fraction. Not safe, but less predatory. Theo lowered the poker, breathing hard. Go. They grabbed the last of their things and bolted for the front door. On the porch, Theo's palm burned. A faint smear of lines appeared, the beginning of the twisted compass mark. Jessica grabbed his hand and pressed her thumb over it hard. No. Sarah shoved bags into the trunk. Drive. Now. Across the street, a black dog stood on the sidewalk. Huge. Still. Watching. It didn't bark. It didn't growl. It simply stared at the house, then at them, like a judge deciding whether they'd learned anything. Then it turned away and walked off, disappearing between parked cars like it had never existed. Tony whispered, "Was that approval?" Jessica exhaled. Maybe it was a warning. Either way, we listen. Sarah started the car and pulled away. Theo didn't look back in any mirror again. St. Catherine's Church was small, brick, warm with incense and quiet. They brought the bags to a tired-eyed priest named Father Paul. He didn't laugh when Theo explained. He didn't roll his eyes. He just looked at the rosaries and said, softly, "This is theft from grief." Jessica's voice was sharp. "We found them in a box." "Dozens." Father Paul nodded. "We will keep them. Pray over them. Try to return what we can." Alan offered the leather notebook and the bagged tape. Father Paul flipped pages and stiffened when he saw the twisted compass symbols. "I've seen this once," the priest said quietly, "on a window in a house where a young man died believing his reflection was calling him." Theo's stomach tightened. "So it's real." Father Paul's gaze hardened. "Someone makes doors where there should be walls." Theo mentioned the figure in the bathroom mirror, the blank face, the calm voice. He did not give names. He kept it careful. Father Paul's face went serious. "Then you are dealing with intention, not just hunger." He noticed Theo guarding his palm. "Show me." Theo held it out. Faint lines, half-formed, like a compass being sketched by invisible ink. Father Paul didn't hesitate. He guided them into a small office behind the sanctuary, pulled a tiny bowl from a shelf, poured water, and added a pinch of salt. He made the sign of the cross over it, murmuring a prayer that sounded older than the building. He took Theo's hand gently. He dipped his thumb in the salted water and traced the sign of the cross on Theo's palm. "In the name of the Father." Theo's palm burned, then cooled. "And of the Son." The faint lines shivered. "And of the Holy Spirit." The half mark faded, pushed down like ink blotted before it could dry. Theo exhaled. Father Paul looked up. Marks like this are claims. They try to make you a location, a site, something to return to. Theo swallowed. It's trying to map me. Father Paul's eyes were tired, but steady. Yes. Then the priest surprised them. He found an old television and video player in the office. The church had never fully left the 20th century. If you brought a tape, Father Paul said, play it here, under light, under prayer. He slid the cassette in. The screen flashed blue, then static, then an image, a basement, concrete floor, mirror, shards on the wall. Braddock's voice, younger, greedy, breathing hard. If I give you faces, you give me protection. That's the deal. I don't want to die scared. On the screen, Braddock turned the camera toward a tall standing mirror. Its glass was fogged from the inside. A whisper came from it. Not hungry, not pleading, calm, professional. Protection is conditional. It said. Sarah's breath hitched. That voice. Braddock laughed nervously. Yeah, conditional. I get it. I bring you objects. I bring you prayers. I bring you names. The camera panned over boxes of stolen rosaries, medals, prayer cards. The calm voice. Objects are useful. Faces are necessary. Braddock pointed the camera at the mirror shard mosaic. In each fragment, his face stared back. But one shard, near the center, showed something else. A figure, tall, still, holding something reflective. Braddock's voice dropped. You're here. The figure lifted its head. Its face was smooth, featureless. On the tape, Braddock stammered, You said you were an angel. The calm voice answered, almost kindly, I am a survey. Jessica's hands clenched. Braddock laughed. Weak. Okay. Survey. Whatever. You keep me safe, right? Silence. Then, safety is not part of the contract. Braddock's breathing sped up. What do you mean? The calm voice cut in. Still polite. Node integrity requires consequence. Fear improves compliance. On the tape, Braddock's eyes went wide. The camera shook. He ran upstairs, panting. At the top, he turned back. In the basement, the standing mirror was uncovered. The reflection wasn't Braddock. It looked like him, but smoother, wrong, smiling first. Braddock screamed. The tape cut to static. The church lights flickered. Once, briefly, the candle by the altar guttered as if a cold hand had passed over it. Father Paul didn't react. He sat very still, hands folded, like a man who had suspected something for a long time and had just been proven right. The team reacted plenty. Tony's hands were shaking. Sarah had pressed herself against the wall. Alan gripped the recorder so hard his knuckles were white. Jessica's lips moved in silent prayer, steady and fierce. Silence filled the office, thick as smoke. Sarah's voice came out small. He helped it. Theo's throat burned. He thought he could buy protection. Father Paul's eyes were dark, and he learned the oldest lesson in the book. You cannot purchase holiness. You can only receive it. Tony whispered. So, the surveyor uses fear as a feature. Alan stared at his recorder, shaking. It said node. Like a network. Jessica's gift pulsed. Steady. This isn't random. This is built. Father Paul exhaled slowly. You keep refusing invitations. You keep your names protected. And you stop thinking the enemy is only hungry. Hungry things can be managed. Intentional things must be confronted with discipline. He gave them short, firm instructions. Keep prayer simple and sincere. Keep holy water close. Keep the rosary where you can touch it fast. Then he added, if you must face another place like this, don't go as 5 scared people. Go as 5 people who know their boundaries. Jessica nodded, eyes bright. Father Paul placed a hand on Theo's head and spoke a quiet blessing. Theo felt something in his chest unclench. Not relief, but steadiness. As they walked out, the older woman by the candles murmured, God keep you. Theo whispered back, Amen. Back in the car, Sarah pulled onto the road. The headlights cut through ordinary darkness. Jessica sat quietly for a moment. Then, in a voice that was too steady to be casual, she said, It let us break the mirror. The car went silent. Why would it let us win? She asked. Nobody had an answer. Theo pressed his palm against the cold window. The mark was gone, but his skin still remembered the shape. The way a tongue finds a loose tooth, prodding the empty space, making sure it's still empty. In the back seat, Alan stared at his recorder. The waveform on the screen pulsed once, compass-shaped, then flattened. Then the screen glitched. Fragments of text crawled across it in broken, corrupted characters. Alan read them aloud, barely breathing. Node 02. Mirror House. Status, partial. Subject mark, active. Next, covered span. Pa. He looked up. Face strained. Pennsylvania. Tony went pale. Pa as in Pennsylvania pa. Sarah whispered. A bridge. Alan's hands shook. He looked at Theo. I dreamed a bridge. Tonight. Covered. Humming. Fog everywhere. Theo's stomach tightened. The network wasn't finished with them. Not even close. The car rolled on, heading southwest. 5 young people, 1 mouth closed, 1 mark fainter, driving toward a state where something was already humming in old wood and waiting for them to cross. Somewhere behind them, in a house with 1 fewer mirror, the air still remembered their faces. The remaining shards in the basement mosaic caught no light, but they held shapes, outlines of 5 people who had refused to look back. The shapes would fade in time, or they wouldn't. Somewhere in the walls, something was already passing those faces along the network, like a letter forwarded to a new address. Node to node. Mouth to mouth. And somewhere ahead, past the state line, over a river, deep in the fog of a covered bridge that locals said sang at night, a low vibration started in the beams. Like wood remembering a song it was never supposed to learn. Like something underneath, counting. The mirror is broken, but broken things still have edges. You've been listening to Salt and Lanterns. Stay together. Keep the light on.